each headed by an honor. Your partner opens one spade. How do you treat this hand? So, as far as category, is it a limit raise? Is it a constructive raise? I think we can all agree it's not weak, right? Too good for that. Right. So you have 10 high card points, right? How would you evaluate that hand with your dummy points approach? Same 10, right? Okay. This is a dummy with absolutely no roughing value, right? Well, is it invitational or is it more of the mixed race? All right. So this is a hand I would downgrade. Right. So my plan with a hand like this is I'm going to treat it as, and by the way, so that this term mixed usually refers not so much to, I mean yes to the point range, but also 4 trumps. So, and by the way, I would say I do think you've gone probably too narrow. Maybe you've been a little bit unlucky on some of your raises. If you want to pull 6 out of here, if you're not comfortable with 6 in that range, and I would say, well, maybe it depends on the 6. I can live with, especially vulnerable. If you're vulnerable, you tend to want to be a little better if you're going to use your weak bid. And you want to keep this as like 7 to 9. But I do think the law of total tricks is going to be your friend probably more often than it feels like.
I'll bring you a book. Mary Cohen.
Yeah, I have
Yes.
I have the Mike Lawrence book that says I fought the law. He does not like it.
All right. So this is but this is a good example of a hand where I'm not following the law of total tricks. Well, that's not true, because we're still forcing to the 3 level.
Right.
So in some way, yeah. So if we are sticking with the law of total tricks, it says that theoretically we are safe at the 3 level with a 9-card fit, and that there's some safety even when the dummy is fairly weak. So this is the kind of hand that I think because it has no roughing value. So if we're using our 3 diamond bid here as the regular Bergen. So I think I would treat this as mixed. And I would say, okay, 1 spade, I'm going to bid 3 diamonds with this hand. I'm going to treat it as, even though it's 10 points, I'm going to treat it as 7 to 9 with 4 trumps. If partner makes a game try.
That would be clubs then.
Hmm?
That's clubs then.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, I forgot the diamonds. Yeah. See, we got Bergen and modified Bergen all going on at once here. And
reverse
there's
Bergen.
not a huge, reverse Bergen. Okay, yes. So 3 clubs is what we're using as the 7 to 9 with 4 trumps. So on an auction like that, remember, if the opener retreats to 3 spades, they're saying, I'm not interested in game. In other words, if you had treated this hand as the limit raise, partner would have stopped at 3. Or partner would have wanted to stop at 3. So so partner may have one of those borderline hands, right? That if they think you've got a good, say, 11 with 4 trumps, they might bet a game. But if you don't have that hand, they don't want to bet a game. So I think if partner retreats to 3 spades here, you probably don't want to be any higher. Now, what if partner makes some kind of game try? And we're not necessarily going to go down this road today, but so if partner were to do something like, now it could be that you've heard partners heard enough that they just want to bid a game. What if opener were to bid something like that? Now remember, you're a little bit limited on what you can do, and this is part of the problem that the Bergen method will present. It does eat up a lot of your bidding space, right? I mean, you're already forced to the 3 level, and you may only have, and of course, if you have hearts, you really don't have much room to work with at all between your Bergen bid and 3 hearts if you want to stop there, right? And I bring this up just because we are today going to look at a couple of alternatives just for consideration. But so what if partner does make one of those bids? 3 diamonds, 3 hearts, whatever it is.
I assume it's a slam try.
Well, but couldn't it just be a game try?
Okay.
I mean, it could, sometimes we now again you don't have room for a lot of different bids. And what is 3 diamonds or what is 3 hearts here? Is it a second suit? Is it is it
question?
Is it someplace you're looking for help? I don't know. I would just kind of play it as, absent any other agreement, I would probably play it as just kind of a, well, this is where I live, partner. This is where I have some stuff. What do you think? Does this make your hand any better? I'm interested in
asking, are you at the top of your range or the bottom of your range? Because he probably has 50 more points.
Yeah, I think that's part of what you're doing. It's not if it's say 7 to 9 or 7 to if we want to call this a bad 10. It's not that your 2 kings and your 2 queens are such bad cards. It's more your shape. It's more your lack of roughing value. That's why I'm calling this a bad 10 and saying, this is borderline as to whether or not it's invitational.
So the 3 diamonds bid would not be saying, I have a stopper, maybe we should be in no trump?
No, because this is a reasonable question. However, on this topic, playing in the major versus playing in no trump.
Yeah.
If you're interested in game, and you have exactly an 8-card major fit, but you're both generally balanced, playing 3-no is a reasonable consideration.
Okay.
I would say if you have a 9-card major fit, you almost never want to play 3-no. That's not to say that you won't find some hands that will take the same tricks in no trump, but 9-card major fits generally scream, let's play in a suit, where 8-card major fit, it's like, okay, we probably want to play in our suit, but we'll at least give some thought to no trump if neither hand has much in the way of roughing value.
I would tend to think that's invitational by the opener. To say if you're on the high end of points, go to game.
Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Because you clearly must have some interest in game, right? Otherwise, you'd just sign off at 3 of your major. And if you knew you wanted to be in game and didn't care so much whether partner had 7 or 8 or 9, where in the range they were, you would just try the game anyhow if it was close. And I'm fine with that. We can't always be completely scientific on every auction. And I feel like if you're close, I would rather, I'd rather see you just shoot out a game, and if it goes down 1, it was probably a pretty reasonable game to be in, I mean, if it's a game, if it's a 50-50 proposition, if you need one finesse to work for your game to make, that's a game I'd really rather see you in, no matter what the circumstance. If you're playing in a duplicate game, fine. If you're just playing socially, where even if it's just a table or 2 and you're not competing with a whole field, definitely in that situation, anything that's more like, rubber bridge, I think the premium, be in that habit of putting the premium on trying a game that has a reasonable shot to make. And I think 50-50 is reasonable. Now, you don't always know that during the auction. You don't necessarily know from the bidding that, well, I think this game is on a finesse, whether or not it's going to make. But so, to give you an idea, also, and I'll change this a little bit, and not give you the fourth trump. Now, of course, this is going to change your bidding sequence, but when I'm playing, if I have a hand like this, and all I did was I made your fourth spade a fourth diamond here. This is a hand that when partner opens, and again, it's a little easier to do this on this auction because you have more room to work with. If partner opens a spade, or for that matter, a heart, since I have 3 of those, I am only raising to the 2 level with that hand. I'm not treating it as invitational. Why not? Same thing. I don't like the shape. It doesn't have any roughing value. Frankly, I feel a lot better about my 7 and 8 point hands that have a little shape to them than I do about my 10-point hands that have no shape. But my feeling with a hand like this is that if partner makes a game try, I'm going to accept. And I'm basically in that category of, I don't care what the game try is, And now the nice thing about this auction is that you have the entire 3 level available to explore, right? And then you can sign off, right? So, if partner bids 3 clubs, whether that's a natural second suit or help suit try or whatever we play, excuse me, my feeling is, okay, we can get caught up. All I did was raise partner to 2. And if partner is interested in game, based on the fact that all I did was squeak out a little 2 spade raise here, at that point I'll just bid a game. In other words, I think that you can go conservatively, that you can underbid, if you will, a little bit with a hand like this, because if partner's not making a game try, 2 spades is probably as high as you want to be if you can help it. And if partner is making a game try, well, you're at the top of your range and you've got a little something in every suit. You'd like to think that one way or another, this is going to be a useful dummy for partner, and I'm going to accept the game try. And this kind of situation comes up a lot in bridge, not just on our major suit raises like this, but in a lot of situations, I think I think you can be conservative to start off and get caught up if you need to. And if the opportunity never comes to get caught up and say, no, actually, partner, maybe I have a little better hand than you think I have. If that opportunity never comes up and the auction passes out, guess what? You didn't want to exercise that opportunity because partner doesn't have the hand that you would need to make a game. So, by the way, I should probably keep track of where we were because I do want to break for a few minutes in the middle so that I'm not yammering on for 2 hours solid. So I do think it's worthwhile, and I guess maybe this falls under the category of I want to evaluate Bergen a little bit and at least look at some other options, or at the very least, if you haven't noticed it already from one of the last bidding sequences we looked at, where this can be a little bit problematic. I always struggle a little bit with Bergen, especially if people have seen I've got a handout that I think at least some of you have. I don't know if all of you have it. And it's my convention priority list. And it's and I've got a lot of the commonly played conventions, and I've got them grouped in, okay, these are the ones that you absolutely need, like Stamen and Jacoby transfers, really critical stuff. And then, and then this next group of things like Roman keycard Blackwood, things that we like you to learn early on that are very useful. Can you get by when you start out with that? Yeah, for a little while. But conventions like that, negative doubles, support doubles, those are a couple that consider really important. And then we have this vast category of really good stuff, which we'll be talking about in this class. That's where we get into like your new minor forcing, your inverted minors, things like that. Excuse me, they're a little more involved. So, I feel like they're pretty important, but don't want to push people into them immediately till they're comfortable with everything else. So people see this list, and then I have been asked many times over the years, oh, well, where's Bergen? Where do you put Bergen on this list? And I've never placed a high priority on it because I never thought that it was as important as I think it is to make those distinctions between your 8-card major fits and your 9-card major fits. I never felt like Bergen was a high priority. I should probably redefine that and say that parts of Bergen I really like and I think are important, especially this, because this is the one that you can't show if you're not playing either Bergen or some variant, right? The invitational hand with 4-card support for the major is easy, right? If we have the agreement that we go 1 spade, 3 spades when we're invitational with 4, like we talked about before, right? And then we go through the forcing no trump with 3, right? We can do that, and we don't need Bergen for that part, right? We can always show an invitational hand with 4. What you can't show without playing Bergen or some variation of it is this hand in the middle, right? Because if you're not playing Bergen, what do you do if you have 7 to 9 and 4 trumps? All you can do is bid 2, right? Like, oh, this partner I'm playing with doesn't play Bergen. I just have to raise the 2. I just have to show my 7 to 9 without being able to show the 4th trump. And then openers in the dark about whether you've done this with 3-card support or 4-card support, right? So I think that is where you really gain with Bergen. The part of it that I'm not crazy about and that I think is not really necessary is this part. Is the immediate weak raise. And it's the same philosophy to some degree as the weak jump shift without competition. I do think, by the way, because we've been talking about auctions that are not competitive, right? So let's say we open a spade and there's, say, a 2-club overcall. Responder jumps to 3 spades. Is that weak for all of us?
Yes.
Yes.
Jump raises in competition?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is very common. Now, look, there are a lot of people, particularly newer players, who still play this as invitational, right? But the vast majority of the duplicate community is playing this as weak, and they're playing it as weak specifically because of the intervening bid, because of the competition. Once the opponents have gotten their overcall in, they've gotten their suit into the bidding, at this stage, your mission may be, is probably more obstructive than constructive. Preemptive, yeah. And this would typically apply even if they don't bid a suit, right? What if we get a takeout double?
Okay, so when you put parentheses, you mean that's the opponent?
That's the opponent's bid, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So, like, 1 spade by north, say 2 clubs by east, 3 spades by south, kind of thing.
So over a double, it's still weak?
Yeah, usually over any kind of interference, our jump raises, and actually even jump shifts, although I think Bergen would still be on over a double, correct?
Over a double it's on.
According to your notes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we play one spade, three spades with no interference as
So
preemptive.
Yes, so that is exactly the contrast that I'm trying to draw here. So,
Okay.
all right, if the auction goes, well, that's the same auction twice. Now that I remove the pass on both. No, those auctions aren't different. Okay, if you play Bergen, this is weak, right? Sometimes this can be useful. Where it tends to be most useful is if opener has a minimum opening, you've made your weak raise, and the person in fourth seat who has not had an opportunity to bid yet has a really good hand.
Yeah.
Now you've made it difficult for them to get into the auction. And that does have some value. The drawback here is that sometimes neither of your opponents has a great hand. They've got scattered values, but they weren't going to do any bidding. And now you have forced your side to the 3 level, perhaps unnecessarily. Now, because of the 9-card fit, the law of total tricks would say that if the auction became competitive, that you would compete to the 3 level anyhow, right? Because of the 9-card fit. And so the idea behind Bergen here is like, well, if we're always willing to compete to the 3 level, we just do it now. Yeah. So it is consistent with the rest of the system. But I just want you to realize that you are volunteering a higher level contract than maybe you wouldn't necessarily be forced to bid the 3 spades, even if your opponents got into the auction. So, I mean, that is a fair amount of bidding with a weak hand when your opponents haven't even gotten in yet, right?
And you would do this with as few as 6 points.
Well, that's what if you play Bergen.
Carol, that's what this
Yeah.
says.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's exactly
now
what it
again, you're not compelled, right?
Yeah.
We say that the range for the weak Bergen bid is 0 to 6. If you have 0, do you have to bid it because it's in, because Joanne sent you the chart and said this is how you must bid?
You can have it.
So the answer is yes. You must do what Joanne tells you to do. Yeah. Again, always want you to use your judgment, particularly when it comes to when it comes to shape. You can look at again, you're 4-3-3, and you're like, okay, well, I'm in the 0 to 6, and I've got 4 trumps. So Bergen says I can bid 3 with this hand, but do you have to? No, you don't have to. And especially when you get into a duplicate game, I do hope that you're paying close attention to the vulnerability, because when I'm vulnerable, I'm and really, if I'm not specifically at favorable vulnerability, I'm going to be very careful about those jump raises with really bad hands. So yeah, you are not compelled to use the bid. If you don't like the looks of the hand. Now, there's one other thing that I want to mention here. Actually, and I think what I'll do is I'm going to give you a hand, and I want you to, using all of the structure, using all of the methods that you currently play, I'm going to give you a hand. I want you to look at it, and then we'll break for a few minutes here. And I think Paul's got some coffee going if anybody wants it. And then I'm going to find out how you're going to bid this hand. Right? But we can talk about that when we come back. So, you have a singleton spade. I'm going to give you 3 hearts to the king. It would be queen, jack, 3rd of diamonds. Okay. Let me give you 6-card club suit, headed by king, queen, 10, 9. And we'll have no bidding from the opponents, so assume uncontested auction. Your partner opens one spade. So I want to know what your plan is for this hand. I want you to decide how you're going to classify it as far as, do you want to force the game? Is it invitational? And think about what your first bid is going to be, and think about what your second bid is going to be with various things that partner might do.
Screaming for a splinter?
Well, the problem here is that your shortness is in partner's suit.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it fits a 1-1 trap, but I force a response, but the next bid is terrible.
1-0.
all right. We'll think about that for a minute, and if anybody wants to break,
It's
we'll
2 over
break
1.
for a couple minutes.
Right.